Over the past 3 decades, the Sultanate of Oman has conducted unique regional foreign policy characterized by independence, pragmatism and moderation. When this policy first began to take shape following the July 1970 palace coup in Muscat, when Qaboos bin Said, covertly assisted by British military advisors, seized the throne from his father, Said bin Tamer. The young sultan immediately moved to modernize Oman's economy, exploiting this country's relatively small but increasingly lucrative petroleum exports. He also set in motion the so-called Omani Renaissance by undertaking social, educational and cultural reforms that continue to this day. Besides his domestic accomplishments, Sultan Qaboos moved to re-establish Oman's role as an active regional player by ending his father's isolationist foreign policy. In 1971, Oman joined the United Nations and the Arab League. More important, by the mid-1970s, with the help of British and Iranian military forces, he had brought under control the communist-inspired Darfur rebellion that had erupted during the 1960s in the southwest corner of Oman. By the end of the 1970s, the domestic political situation in Oman had stabilized, allowing Sultan Qaboos to devote more attention to foreign policy and to implement his policy of independence, maintaining freedom of action, pragmatism, demonstrating flexibility in reaching accommodation with regional and global powers, and moderation, eschewing extreme positions and supporting the stable regional political military status quo in securing Omani foreign policy interests. 3. Muscat's pragmatic foreign policy derives, in part, from its survival instinct. How does a small state maintain its sovereignty, especially in a seemingly dangerous neighborhood? Rule number 1. Acquire a great power patron protector. For rule number 2. Avoid alienating your patrons. Rule number 3. Avoid making enemies. Oman's foreign policy originates in a decision-making process that tends to be highly idiosyncratic. Muscat's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and overseas missions are not staffed by trained professionals comparable, for example, to the U.S. Foreign Service. 5. Consequently, Oman's foreign ministry has not developed an institutional culture that may shape or act as a constraint on foreign policy. 6. The monarchical and highly personalized nature of Oman's political system, moreover, allows Sultan Qaboos to exercise major influence over foreign policy. Oman's institutional weakness raises questions about the long-term direction of Oman's foreign policy. An organization such as the U.S. Department of State, for example, provides long-term continuity to and places an institutional stamp on U.S. foreign policy that survives American presidents. 7. Will the foreign policy legacy independence, pragmatism and moderation of Sultan Qaboos survive him, or will there be more fundamental systemic political changes in Oman given the Sultanate's weak foreign policy institutional apparatus? This paper argues that, in fact, Oman's foreign policy orientation has also been shaped by 3 critical factors that will continue to motivate and constrain the actions of any future leader or leadership group. 1. Strategic location. 2. The post-petroleum economy, and 3. The Ibadi culture of conservatism and tolerance. Navigating in 3 arenas under the guidance of Sultan Qaboos, Oman has shown the remarkable flexibility in the conduct of its foreign policy. 8. Muscat turns on its head the old Middle East adage that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. 9. As the head of a small, militarily weak state, the Sultan realizes that making friends or avoiding making enemies is practical from a security vantage point. For Oman, the enemy Iran of my friend the United States may still be my friend. To that end, Muscat often demonstrates its independence and pragmatism by adopting positions on regional and global issues that run counter to the interests/desires of its Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) partners, other Arab states and the United States. 10. Over the past 3 decades, in particular, Oman has sought to navigate in 3 critical arenas: 1. Persian Gulf security, 2. The Arab-Israeli conflict, and 3. Global security threats.